So we are on learning objective 8, which is to relate the kinetic energy to the states and the changes of state. We've already done this with the state, so this is really more of relating kinetic energy to changes of state and what's happening there. So I'm going to abbreviate kinetic energy as Ke, and I'm going to abbreviate potential energy as Pe here. So then if I've got a solid, so a solid again has kind of this low kinetic energy. So this has low kinetic energy, but it has a high potential energy. Okay. And so we can talk about going from a solid to a liquid, which is melting, right? So melting. Now, as we go through the process of melting, what we are doing is we are increasing our kinetic energy, which means we're decreasing our potential energy, and we are adding heat. Okay? So then we get into this melting stage, or this liquid stage, right? So a liquid has a higher kinetic energy when compared to a solid, lower compare it to a gas. So this kind of has intermediate kinetic energy, intermediate potential energy. So kind of this medium potential. And we can kind of talk about, like, as we go from a liquid to a gas, what we're doing is we're evaporating. Evaporation. We could also say boiling here, because boiling is kind of the same thing. Okay. And again, here we're increasing our kinetic energy, decreasing our potential energy, and we're adding heat. Gases have very high kinetic energy and very low potential energy. So, and we can actually talk about, like, okay, so going from a solid, so again, this is solid, to a gas, right? So from a solid to a gas, this is called sublimation. Again, we're doing the same thing as if we're melting or if we're evaporating. We're increasing our kinetic energy, decreasing our potential energy, and we're adding heat. Okay. So then we can go back the other way. So if I go back this way to a liquid, if we're going from a gas to a liquid, we are condensing, which means that we are decreasing our kinetic energy and increasing our potential energy. We are also subtracting heat. Okay. And then the same thing goes from the liquid to a solid. We're freezing. And we're also decreasing our kinetic energy, increasing our potential energy, and we're subtracting heat. Now, we can go from a gas directly to a solid, and this is called deposition. So deposition, again, we're decreasing our kinetic energy, increasing our potential energy, and we're subtracting heat. So now, if you notice about these things, one of the things that you can kind of notice about these things is they're opposite in nature. So what ends up happening is that we have these things occurring at the same time. So melting and freezing occurs simultaneously. Evaporation and condensation also happen simultaneously. So, and you can kind of think about, like, if you boil anything, if you're boiling water, a lot of times you'll have condensation at the top of wherever you're actually boiling, and that is just because we are also condensing at that point. So we're going through both of these things at the same time. So that is learning objective 8, which is to relate kinetic energy to the states and changes of state. So again, as we move from a solid liquid to a gas, we are increasing our potential or kinetic energy. If we're moving from a gas liquid to a solid, we are increasing our potential energy. And we're going to talk a little bit more about these terms in terms of the next thing, which is thermochemical processes, a little later. All right, so that is learning objective 8.